Hey everyone, I'm Tim Haile, Executive Director of the Contra Costa Transportation Authority. Welcome back to the podcast. And for the first time, we're bringing it to you on video. This series is where we talk about the projects, partnerships, and people shaping the future of transportation right here in Contra Costa County. In this episode, we're taking you inside a recent Measure J conversation I had with the Contra Costa County Board of Supervisors, where we looked at how local sales tax dollars continue delivering real results. Safer streets, better connections, and innovative programs like our Smart Signals Network. Thanks for tuning in, and stay with us for more stories on how CCTA is helping you where you want to go safely, efficiently, and sustainably.
CCTA has been really a foundation in Contra Costa County to really focus on providing transportation projects, programs for you every single day. It's the work that we do behind the scenes that really keeps people moving in Contra Costa County. We started the agency by the voters in 1988. We were formed by the voters through Measure C. And Measure C, we delivered all of the projects as part of Measure C. And right now, we renewed that measure in 2004 under Measure J, and that's our current measure that we continue to deliver on every single day here in Contra Costa County. Measure J is roughly about a $2.5 billion program. The project started in 2004, and all of the entire measure is going to be expiring in 2034. And a really key component to Measure J is really the return to source funds that really go back to your local communities to be able to provide really key projects to improve potholes, paving, all of those really local needed projects and improvements to really improve your daily commutes. The other key part of Measure J was really delivering large infrastructure projects in the county. And one of those really key projects was the Caldecott Tunnel, the fourth bore of the Caldecott Tunnel. And that project was actually funded by Measure J, and it's one of the key projects and key signature projects that when you drive through that tunnel, we hope that you all think about CCTA. As part of that project, we finished that project ahead of schedule and under budget. And that project was 100% underground, which is very unprecedented for a project like that. And that's really a testament of the work that we do at CCTA. Some of the other key projects are right here in Central County and as well as Eastern Contra Costa County. And I want Ken and Diane to be able to talk a little bit about the improvements that have been happening by Measure J in their respective regions. So maybe we'll go to talk to East County. So in Highway 4, before Measure J, Highway 4 was one of the worst roadways, commutes in the country. Mm-hmm. And what is it like now?
Yeah, I've grown up in Contra Costa County, so I remember when it was considered, it had nicknames. And now it's still a very busy road. It's wider, but it is safer, except for the folks that are driving a little too fast. And we are practicing making sure that enforcement and people are taking responsibility. But Highway 4 being widened has made it a much better commute. It's still, when you go out to Brentwood, it's one of the worst commutes, so there's still a lot of work to be done. But it is a great freeway that has been very helpful for people to be able to move to a place that they can be happy in.
I think Eastern Contra Costa County is like one of the key parts is that's where a lot of people live in Contra Costa County. I mean, I think everyone knows that we are like a bedroom community, right? Mm-hmm. And I think even pre-pandemic, a lot of people were leaving the county, going to San Francisco, San Jose, and so we have a lot of people that live in Eastern Contra Costa County. And I think a big part of the improvements to Highway 4, which was a $1.2 billion investment in the county to be able to extend Highway 4 from 680 all the way out into Brentwood. And before that, it was literally a 2-lane road, right?
Right,
literally
going through Oakley and Brentwood.
Yeah, it was just literally, and now it's an 8-lane facility that now helps and improve those commutes. Highway 4 being built has now saved commutes by anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes for the Eastern Contra Costa County residents. And the other thing it did is it brought really needed transit improvements out to Eastern Contra Costa County and it extended BART all the way out to Antioch.
That's correct. As soon as eBART opened, it was immediately full. We had to go and put another parking lot in to help. The other thing about East County is it's a route from the Central Valley and from Solano County, people coming through either to work here in Contra Costa or to go through. So there is still a lot of traffic coming through East County.
Yeah, and I think a fun fact is that the BART line in Contra Costa County is the most used, the most busiest in the entire Bay Area, really, which is really a testament of the BART being really a lifeline, for Eastern Contra Costa County, really saving people commutes on Highway 4 every single day.
Yeah, BART has talked about ridership not being as high in certain places, but that line is very much used and very much valued in our part of the county.
Yeah, and I think it's a great example of like really focusing on accessibility and getting people more access to transit.
Right.
And I think that's really the core principles of CCTA, is really thinking about how we can make this more safe and connected, accessible system. And by doing so, we can really focus on, how to really focus next on that first and last mile, which I know we'll talk a little bit about later in the webinar. So let's maybe turn to Central Contra Costa County. So one of the interchanges in Central Contra Costa County that everyone is, really knows about is the 684 interchange.
Right.
It's a really tough interchange to navigate. It's got really short weaving lanes, and so CCTA has made really a huge investment into that interchange, and I know we've got future projects coming. But tell us a little more about that interchange, and then also some of the improvements that are also happening on 680.
Yeah, 680 is really the heart of the county, right? It runs north and south through entire Contra Costa County, and it's really the lifeblood that connects us together, not only in our commute, but within our communities. And so what we've done between the State Route 4, between 242 and 680 has really made a significant improvement. And I know we're continuing to plan and move forward on additional improvements, but it really keeps us connected, as well as the 680 express lanes, making that north and southbound commute much smoother, much easier. But it's more than just roadways, right? The work we do, there's so much more to it.
There's a lot more to be done in the 680 corridor as well as the Highway 4 corridor. I think that's really important. Some of the other things that we do with Measure J is really focusing on transit. I think we have a number of programs in Measure J that I think are really important to the community. I know, for example, in San Ramon, Danville, the La Miranda area, we provide school bus services for lots of students that saves over 1 million trips per year. And so I think that's a really critical program. And also, as we think about getting people and getting our children and students in to school safer and faster, we have a number of different programs as well. So I know we have this Safe Route to Schools program where we're really focused on Vision Zero and really thinking about how do we get people to school safer and faster using programs like transit and really leveraging Tri-Delta Transit, County Connection, WestCat, all of the trans operators in Contra Costa County, and AC Transit. I think school trippers are a really key component, in terms of funding transit. And Measure J does go to funding all of our transit operators in Contra Costa County. And I know it's a really important fund source for them. Nice. The other thing is also ferry service. As we think about the multimodal aspects, of the system, CCTA started funding and expanding ferry service to Contra Costa County through Richmond Ferry Service. And I know in West County, it's really a signature project for them. And everyone in West County really loves the ferry. And if you haven't had an opportunity to actually ride the ferry, highly recommend it. It's some of the best views in the Bay Area of the Bay Bridge going from Richmond into San Francisco. And so some of the other programs that we do is really focused on accessibility. And I know that's going to be a really key priority for the board as we think about accessibility. We have a growing aging population in terms of seniors. And so as we think about that, I know that's a really important priority for the board. We approved a strategic plan that's going to be focused on a number of strategies. And I know the trans operators, really in partnership with them, have really demonstrated this really great program to really provide this connected one-seat ride to be able to provide faster and quicker paratransit rides to seniors across the entire county, right in Central Contra Costa County, where we have all our medical facilities.
Real quick.
Yeah.
We are, we talk about transit, but it really is multimodal, right? Mm-hmm. So we talk about bike and peds as well. And we want to really make sure that it's all connected, like our principle are connectivity. So what we've done on the McCollum Trail Bridge, what we've done on the Schroeder Bridge in near Contra Costa Center, or down at Bollinger Canyon, it's different ways that people are moving into transportation through bike and ped activities. So We also focus on, it's really is so much that we accomplish at CCTA. And it's really important to the community that they see that, because
Right.
they get on their bikes now or they start to walk somewhere and they truly are more connected than they were a decade or 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah, and when we talk about accessibility and connectivity, it's also about creating habits.
Yeah.
And so when we have those opportunities and people can take advantage of those multimodal,
Yeah.
easy for me to say, right? Opportunities, that creates those habits of being able to bike or ride or use transit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's really important, and this is really the core principle of CCTA, is there's a lot happening in the county. Then we have lots of different things happening. We have trans operators, we have local jurisdictions, we've got people biking and walking and taking Uber and Lyft and driving and all these things, and there's all these things happening all at once. And I think a really important role of CCTA is really making sure that people are able to travel safely, right? Make sure all those modes are connected, and then also making sure that they're accessible, right? Making sure we've got mobility for all, in the county. One of the things that we're really proud of, at CCTA is the ability to really take Measure J and leverage it. As we think about state funding and federal funding, and so we've been able to deliver projects like McCollum pedestrian overcrossing, as well as the Bollinger Canyon pedestrian overcrossing, which has been a huge successful project, and also the Treat Boulevard pedestrian overcrossing, all funded by Measure J. And these are key projects where we've been able to leverage, in terms of attracting those state and federal dollars. And a key component to having this local sales tax is, without that local sales tax, we would not be able to attract those state and federal funds into the county. And so we've been able to take, essentially about 1.4 billion of local sales tax between Measure C and Measure J, and be able to deliver 5.6 billion.
That's why we're recognized as a self-funding county,
It's
right?
self-help
Yeah,
county.
yeah.
And there's 24 self-help counties in the state of California, and it is a very unique kind of business model in California.
But when I go to Washington, D.C., or I go to Sacramento, CCTA is one of the highest held standards of these organizations. So not only are you leveraging money, but we are also innovating the rest of the country as far as technology and transportation.
Yeah, and I think a big part of that is really just the way we're structured as an organization. We're a small organization. We're 27 people. We're a AAA rated agency in terms of being able to bond and credit rating. And so we're able to get things done very flexibly, nimble, efficiently, with our staff. We don't have a lot of red tape, a lot of bureaucracy, and it's really based on the great leadership of the board, that really helps and supports that within CCTA.
I just think it's really important that our public understands that for every local dollar they're contributing to their transportation system, we are leveraging that nearly 5 times that. So again, it's really important for us to accomplish this work, that we continue to have that funding stream to leverage those state and federal dollars. If not,
And the county gets to partner with that. So
Right.
we leverage and then you leverage. So we're really very efficient at doing that.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point in terms of Measure X. Measure X is a key component for CCTA as well, in terms of really helping to deliver on these accessible transportation
Right.
programs. And an example of that, and I'm going to ask the team here to cue the next video, is really this LIFE program, the Low Income Fair Equity Program, which is both funded by Measure X and being delivered in partnership with our trans operators in Contra Costa County.
I use the paratransit rides for my freedom. It gives me the freedom to go where I want to go and when I want to go.
Paratransit for me is a lot of help for me, because I don't have no family out here in California I can really pin on for help and stuff like that. Better for me to have the transportation where I won't have to try to pin on a family member to take me here or do this.
It's a service that's just outstanding for the fact that I cannot make it to the bus stops, and they come to my house, they pick me up, and they take me home.
Paratransit is a door-to-door service, accessible transportation for individuals who have disabilities and are unable to ride the regular fixed route city bus. The Paratransit Life program is a low-income fare equity program for our paratransit customers who qualify, and they would receive 5 free round trips per month to use on any paratransit trips that they choose.
CCTA is supporting the Paratransit Life program because it really is government at its best. You know, providing transportation to those who need it most is really important. It's just woven into the quality of life for those who need to access services.
Yeah, that's such a great program. I know it's been a really exciting program and well-used program in the county, and it's really a testament of the partnership we have with Contra Costa County and also CCTA in terms of the Measure X and Measure J and using those sales tax dollars to provide that benefit to the community. So we talked a lot about Measure J. We talked about what it brings to the community, the benefit, saving everyone anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes of commuting, the leveraging part of it. Let's talk about what's next. You know, what's coming down the pipeline. I mean, as you mentioned earlier, there's still congestion, right, in Contra Costa County. And so, and that is really because there's just so much demand, you know, on the system. And so, unfortunately, we need to continue to fund and deliver on these key projects. And we know that as we talk about and think about where people are sitting in traffic, you know, we know that northbound 680, you know, in the afternoon is just a terrible bottleneck. We know that the Highway 4, eastern Contra Costa County, central Contra County is really in the afternoon and even in the morning, you know, and so we do have these kind of key improvements and bottlenecks. So, and I know CCTA and the staff at CCTA and the board has been really thinking a lot about, you know, what are some of these really next key projects. And so let's talk a little about the Highway 4 operational improvement project. So this is a project that is really going to help solve and relieve congestion on Highway 4 between 680 and Bailey Road.
Right.
And I know that's a lot people going out to East County in the afternoon, sitting in that traffic. And I think that's a really key project, you know, for folks out there. That project is going to basically widen Highway 4 and really connect all the dots between 242 and Willow Pass Road. It's roughly about a $200 million investment, you know, that we're going to be looking at and continuing to leverage state and federal funds. But I think that's a key project for eastern Contra Costa County, even though it's like in central county.
Sure. Yeah, when you're commuting out that way, that's exactly where it all backs up. As soon as you get over the hill, that's when it starts to open up. So if we can make that easier and more efficient, that's going to make a lot of things easier and faster for people to be able to get home and do the things that they want to do at home.
Yeah, and it's that traffic starts like at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
No, 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock in the afternoon. So I just want everyone on the webinar to hear that we hear you, we see the need, and we're absolutely working on that. And it's going to be a great improvement, and I think it's going to be a really key project for us in the future. Let's talk about 680. You know, another key commute for everyone. You know, going into South Bay and into San Francisco. There's a huge investment there in terms of Innovate 680. So
Right.
And I know you've been part of that over the years, and so maybe talk a little bit about how you see Innovate 680 really coming into the corridor and helping people.
Well, we started at Highway 4 again, right? And we still need to fix those transition ramps that are both south and northbound in the sense of the bottleneck that's created coming either east or westbound off of Highway 4. So that's a big part of that, as well as we're talking about innovative things like bus on shoulder. You know, do we create those? Our CARM program, which is signal synchronization, ramp metering, and how we can make the flow of traffic so much smoother. So we're innovating all this new technology, right, into our ramp metering program and how we're going to get traffic flowing better and give priority to our transit riders.
Yeah, and a big part of this is that we're not going to be able to really build ourselves, you know, out of congestion. You know, and I think that's the types of projects and programs that we're really kind of thinking about in the future and Innovate 680 is really the first project at CCTA to kind of think about, okay, 680, it's highly constrained, like we're not going to be able to widen it. It would cost billions of dollars to widen it. It would cost billions of dollars to connect it down to Dublin BART, you know, or extend BART to Dublin. And so really, what are we going to do? And so we came up with these strategies, you know, around kind of fixing that last bottleneck in the corridor, which is the Highway 24 and 680 bottleneck. And so there's a huge project, the I-680 Express Lanes project. Right. And that's been a huge investment in 680 over, you know, Measure J in terms of bringing those express lanes in the corridor, providing that reliability in the corridor, so making sure people know that there's a reliable way to get home if they need to get home to daycare or get home to, you know, an appointment or a dentist appointment. And then another big component of this is, like you said, how do we leverage technology, you know, in the corridor and really think about coordinated ramp metering. And I know a lot of people hate sitting in ramp metering, waiting to get on the freeway, but this is a different type of ramp metering. It's kind of a next generation and really being able to coordinate the traffic. And that's what we're really kind of focused on, is really thinking about better ways to really kind of orchestrate and direct, where the traffic is going, how the traffic is traveling through the system. And we're doing that all through Innovate 680.
And we do look for, and we are aware of, those areas that cause us greater bottlenecks where we can do roadway improvements. We talk about northbound 680. After coming past Ignacio Valley, you hit the North Main off, the Lawrence Way on, and the Treat Boulevard off, and the scales. How can we make that better? And so we look at projects that can make those things reduce the bottlenecks in combination with all the other things that we're doing.
And at the same time, where infrastructure has been more built out in certain parts of the county, there's other parts of the county that I represent that are still catching up on that infrastructure. And so kind of the cool thing that's going on is we are accommodating that growth, but we're also incorporating the technology and the newer tools to helping make it safer, more accessible, more connected.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's an important point, is our county is so diverse,
right,
with a lot of different needs. And I think that's the important thing, and the challenge to CCTA is really making sure we're having the right investments, the right strategies to meet all of those needs, in the county. On 680 corridor specifically, I think we did get a huge grant, from the federal government last year, $166 million grant. And so that's a huge project to fund the northbound express lanes project, as well as the coordinated adaptive ramp metering. So these are projects that are in the pipeline. You're going to start seeing construction in the next 1 to 2 years. And the other key project is the 684 interchange, and that's a constant focus, in CCTA. And the next project at the 684 interchange is to actually build a flyover connector. And by building that flyover connector, we'll be able to eliminate a loop, which then eliminates that really short weaving, in that one direction. And so. And we got a huge grant from the state, $58 million grant from the state this year. And so that project is actually going to be starting construction sometime end of next year. And so we have, and so what's really neat, what's coming is, all of these projects, we have about over 600 million going to construction in the next 3 to 5 years, all being leveraged, by Measure J. And I think the other thing is, so those are the highway improvements that are coming down the pipeline. I think the next ones is really focusing on the local road system. I think CCTA historically has really focused on the highway system in the past. And I think now we're thinking about how can CCTA help the local jurisdictions to really deliver key congestion relief projects and safety projects on the local road system.
Yeah. Well, and you were saying, you gave the history of Measure C, Measure J. When those were set up, there wasn't Google Maps or Waze. Those different roads that people were accessing weren't as accessed as they are now, and they've become thoroughfares. So by investing in all of that, we're actually also helping with the advancement of transportation.
Yeah.
I think where you were going was countywide, we're going to look at smart signals. One of the things, and 10 years in law enforcement, or 30 years in law enforcement, 10 in traffic, signal synchronization is one of the biggest challenges we face, especially across jurisdictional lines. But you end up with cars stacked in the middle of intersections at a high used hour, and it just disrupts traffic all the way around. And if we can all come together and have those smart signals together synchronized, and the flow of traffic is smoother, more efficient, more timely for those drivers, it's really important, I think. And not only that, we haven't even really talked about greenhouse gas emissions and our goal to not only be safe, but to be efficient energy-wise and environmentally. So the less time we have cars stacked up in the middle of intersections, it just disrupts the flow. So the investment we're making in our smart signal systems across jurisdictions is really, really important for our local drivers.
And our public transit, we really need to lean in on. I think this funds less than 10% of public transit. I think that's what I read. Mm-hmm. And I know, at least in East County, if we could build that and get people on a bus to either BART or to be able to work locally, which is another innovative thing that I would like to work on is that we could get people off the road that way, decreasing the greenhouse gas emissions, creating counter commute patterns and all of that.
Yeah, and I think a big part of this goal of this countywide smart signal program, and a lot of these, again, connectivity, right? Connectivity and safety, and thinking about like how we can use this to prioritize transit, in our local roadway system.
Right.
We can use this technology to be able to change, the signals, to be able to adjust in real time to what's happening in real time conditions. And I think the other one, my favorite, is I hate stopping at a red light and there's no one there.
Right.
Right. And so like, it's so frustrating.
Yes.
It's like, why am I sitting here and there's no one here? Like,
Right.
what happened? And so now with smart signals, with the video detection and the technology, we'll be able to change that to be able to reduce and hopefully make congestion and make travel times and reduce travel times in these corridors.
And that includes bikes and pedestrians, right?
Cyclists,
You stand, you walk up to an intersection, it's
Right.
clear to go in your direction, but signals aren't in your favor. Being able to have those detections and things like
Exactly,
that is really
because
huge.
signal timing is actually static. So what happens is you got the pedestrian, crossing across the road, and then you're waiting there to wait for what would be more of a slower person walking across, and you're like, now I got to wait here for this phase to end. And so by, again, video detection, we can reduce that time and get people to move faster through the corridors. I think another big part of the countywide smart signals is actually emergency services. A lot of what we see is making sure that our emergency service providers can get through our local intersections and our local roads faster, quicker, safer. And so being able to prioritize them, in the system.
Right.
So countywide smart signals is a really key project. It really benefits everyone, in terms of walking, biking, emergency services, people driving. It's a really, really great project. And I think we've got a number of local road projects as well that are coming up. And we got a really great grant also from the federal government, the Safe Streets for All projects. And that's really focused on bringing safer walking and biking into some of our local roads. And also to add a few lanes here and there to improve travel and congestion. Another big thing is transit improvements. I know that's a real big priority for the transit operators is like, we've got congestion. We need to get and prioritize transit,
Right.
through congestion, because if transit is not going faster, then
They
people,
won't ride it.
they're not
Yeah.
going to ride it, right?
Yeah.
And so a big part of that and a priority is to work in partnership with the transit operators and really focus on, projects like San Pablo Bus Rapid Transit, where we're going to be looking on how to prioritize transit in San Pablo Avenue. And we've also identified other corridors, for transit priority throughout the entire county. Including bus on shoulder, as you mentioned earlier, and that's a really key project as well on the 680 corridor and 80 too.
Yeah, well, for those that don't understand what prioritizing transit means, it really is, do we have a designated lane? Do we give them signal priority? How do we get them from point A to point B faster and more conveniently to increase ridership?
Incentive,
but
yeah.
also to, get people where they need to go in general.
Right.
Because a lot of those people that are riding transit are part of our, impoverished population or those that are working 3 jobs. And how do they get where they need to go in a timely fashion?
Yep.
Yeah, access to jobs, right? Access to jobs, access to quality of life is all really part
Safety.
of and safety is all part of transportation. And sometimes I think we take that for granted sometimes, but I think transportation is really key to people's mobility.
Yeah.
And I think the other part of CCTA that's really, really cool is our Momentum Station program. We own and operate one of the largest secured autonomous vehicle test facilities in the country at Concord Naval Weapons Station in the city of Concord. And it really has provided us a front row seat to the future. And because we talk a lot about this technology and how technology is going to be really key to the future of transportation, it's our place where we can learn about it, how we can apply it, how we can implement it. And we've been doing that really successfully as we think about one of the biggest challenges that we have in Contra Costa County is first and last mile.
Yep.
We can make fixed route transit and buses go faster, but getting everyone to the buses and getting everyone to BART is going to be really, really key and really focusing on first and last mile. And one of the key priorities that CCTA has been exploring is how we can use shared autonomous vehicles and new technology to be able to support first and last mile. So you can get that same Uber, Lyft experience in public transit on demand from your home to public transit, and really complement and expand access to public transit. And CCTA has been really piloting our Presto program. And I'm going to ask the team to cue this next video to kind of share some of the projects we've been doing around shared autonomous vehicles. So that really gives you a glimpse of what's happening or what the future of transportation is going to look like. And something that CCTA is really proud of is just our ability to lead, with innovation. We are known nationally and in some places globally for the innovation that we do at CCTA. I know the board and our staff is very, very proud of that. And I think as we think about that, one of CCTA's roles is to do countywide transportation planning and think about the future of transportation. Right. And right now, CCTA is embarking on updating our countywide transportation plan. And for you, everyone watching, if you go to our website, ccta.net, there's opportunities to engage in that process, right, because it's really important to hear from you in terms of what you need in Contra Costa County. And I think with the CTP, it's a big role for us is thinking about, okay, what's going to happen in the next 25 to 30 years, and how are we actually planning for that? And I think a big part of the county, kind of living in this post-pandemic world, is travel patterns have changed dramatically with work from home and hybrid work environments. And so trying to anticipate where people are going is actually more difficult than ever. So really relying on data, really relying on people engaging in the process is really, really important. And so as we think about the future, what are some of the projects that kind of get you going, get you excited as you think about the future? I mean, you're on the board. I know we talk about this stuff. And so what are some of the cool projects that you think are on the horizon?
That's really hard because, one, I like innovation, I like technology. So when we talk about the Gomenton station, autonomous driving vehicles, or other technologies that might be coming forward, that's always intriguing, and I think people like new. Mm-hmm. So that's part of it. But again, when it comes to the grand scheme of what we're doing, as we focus in on the commute, for me, it's that 680 corridor, how we're going to go from Highway 4 towards South County and clean up and make that commute more accessible, more palatable, shall we say, whether that's bus on shoulder, cleaning up some of the infrastructure. Those are intriguing. And again, it's how can we drive the cultural change? It is very convenient, and we as Americans just get in our car and go. So making transportation and access to transportation more convenient. So yeah, I have my home to BART service instead of having to get in my car and do it. And I can do it communally. So there are so many different programs. Again, I'm a big Glideways fan. I'm excited for East County as we move forward with that project. And you saw in the video Presto and what we're doing with Presto down at Bishop's Ranch and up here in Martinez. There's just so much going on that right now, and again, as we move forward in the future, we have still more visionary things going ahead. So you can't pick one project for Ken.
It's truly a multimodal system.
Yeah.
And I think to your point, I mean, there's a lot of people that drive in the county. And so, 90% of people drive in Contra Costa County, and so it's really important to make sure that we're able to get people where they need to go, whether they're driving, whether they're taking a bike, whether they're taking transit. And so those are very, making sure we're meeting the needs of everyone. And we did a lot of, as we came out of the pandemic, CCTA did actually a lot of travel behavior studies. And just to understand, what is everyone's appetite? How are they traveling before, the pandemic? How are they traveling after the pandemic? And, what we found is local trips are increasing by almost 50%, so there's more local trips happening. It's not just everyone going in the morning and going in the afternoon, and then also we have a lot more shorter trips, You know, like it used to be the trips were long, and now a lot of the local trips are less than 2 miles. You know, a lot of the trips I think that the number is even like 50 to 60% of our trips of local trips are less than 2 miles.
Yeah.
You know, and so that really gets into that first and last mile. And to your point, you know, how do we address that? You know, it's not just about you know, about all this like autonomous vehicles and all this stuff. It's really making sure we're providing like a personalized mobility option.
Yeah.
An option that's going to fit for everybody.
Right.
Yeah, you know, at East Contra Costa, which I represent, but I've grown up in Contra Costa, so I've seen all of the different growth and changes in our culture and in the way we do things. I think transportation is one of the main things that connects us to so many different things, whether it's our health or our economy or the ability to, you know, pursue our dreams. So my interest in the different projects in Contra Costa is kind of the big picture. We're the ninth largest county in California, fourth largest economy in the world. If you looked at us on the map, we're in the center of the mega region of the economy. So we have so many opportunities to improve the quality of life and the opportunities that we have. And so that's kind of the big thing. The other part of it is safety. It's about being able to have time. You know, so many people spend so many hours on the road rather than getting to go home and volunteer or exercise or work with their kids on their homework. It's about the environment, you know, the greenhouse gas emissions, the expense of investing in an infrastructure that's not being used completely efficient. So that's why I'm here. I'm really excited and inspired by the work that CCTA has done with the autonomous vehicles, and it inspired me to pursue the airport stuff that I think we'll talk about later, if not sooner. But you know, I think that the fact that we are here in the Bay Area, there are so many opportunities, whether it's investing in the historical infrastructure or really leaning in and leading in the technology opportunities. That's why I'm involved in transportation.
Yeah, I agree. I think in terms of really serving the community is, I think, why we're all doing this. And I think what drives me crazy is when I hear about like, it takes someone, you know, 2 to 3 hours to get from point A to point B, or hey, like I missed this connection because something was either broken or not working, or and I also want to think about like, okay, how can I get people from point A to driving? You know, because people are going to continue to drive. I mean, and we're not asking everyone to get out of their car, and I think that's an important component. And I think I know there's a lot of focus on multimodal, but at the end of the day, people are still going to drive. And so I think what we're trying to do here is really give people choices, right? So choices to say like, hey, today I'm going to be working from home, and I'm going to, you know, be just, you know, dropping my kids off in school. And so is there another way of doing that, you know, in the future, you know? And I think a big part of that is really giving these like alternatives, you know? And when we did these travel behavior studies, there was about almost 40% of people that were regular commuters that were really looking for options other than the car. You know, so we know that people want to get out of their car. It's just they can't get out of their car because the options are just not there. You know, and so how do we provide those options in the future?
Well, and that's why we're here. I mean, that's really what CCTA is all about in so many ways, is how can we make it more efficient, more palatable. And again, you know, I'm a big fan of transit training. I talk about, you know, understanding how to use multimodal transportation, and especially public transportation. So when we afford them faster, more efficient, more convenience, then we need to teach them and make sure they understand it's not going to take you 2.5 hours anymore. It's going to take you 45 minutes, which is going to shave 10 minutes off your commute.
It's going to be less expensive and not as hard on the environment.
And that too,
But those are really cost-effective programs. You know, as you think about travel training, think about connecting people to the mode. So we have this other program called One Call, One Click that we're thinking about in the future, where it's like a one-stop shop. You know, so because transportation can get confusing. I mean, there's lots of services, lots of different transit operators, and so it's like, well, how do I get from point A to point B if I'm not going to drive my car?
Right.
So I'm going to lead you down a path.
Yeah.
Our shared mobility hubs.
Yeah.
Those are our training centers, essentially, right? If we can get people to understand what our shared mobility hubs are going to be, that's your opportunity to learn about multimodal transportation opportunities.
Yeah, I see we see shared mobility hubs as really being foundational.
Yeah.
You know, as we think about this connected network, connected modes, and being able to offer these personalized mobility options, these are places that will be in your community that you can go to and rely on every single day to get information about transportation, about mobility.
And that's the beautiful thing about Contra Costa and being in California. We are early adopters. We want to do these great things. And so when given the opportunity, people will take those opportunities.
I agree. And another opportunity is, you know, thinking about just Eastern Contra Costa County is we developed this, you know, automated transit network we're doing in partnership with Tri-Delta Transit. And you mentioned it already, Glideways, but Glideways is a little autonomous pod that operates in its own dedicated pathway, but it's an opportunity to extend transit in Contra Costa County, particularly to Brentwood, because I know Brentwood is now the worst commute in the country.
In the country,
island,
you know,
yeah.
and it's an island, and it's not connected. And so I think one of the things we're thinking about is how do we extend BART to Brentwood?
Right.
And I think one of the ways we're thinking about doing that is using technology and using transit.
Right. And the new technologies that are available are not as expensive and are faster to build and will meet people's needs now or as soon as possible rather than down the road. And that's a big part of it. And like I said, we have a workforce and a community that is early adopters. They are looking for those conveniences. They are comfortable with these new technologies. So we're looking forward to those things coming our way.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that CCTA does is we get out into the community, you know, and I think that's really important. And one of our priorities is really directly hearing from the community of what you need. What are your pain points in transportation? And we usually take CCTA, we do a lot of tabling at the community events in these communities to really learn and understand, you know, what is your most biggest challenge, you know, in transportation, and then also be able to educate and explain, like, hey, this is some of the new things that are coming. You know, what do you think about that? And I would say, to your point about early adoption, I mean, when we did a survey, I think there was roughly about 75% of people were very interested in how we can really move to this like more on-demand and using technologies, you know, using and making the system very much multimodal. And again, you know, share mobility hubs, as you think about that in your community, it's going to be access to, you know, bikes and bike share. It's going to be access to car share where you can check a car in and out if you need to. It's going to be access to transit. It's going to be access to shared autonomous vehicles and on demand. It's going to be access potentially to even carpooling and sharing rides. And then it's also going to be access to information where you have kiosk and maybe you'll pick up an Amazon package there,
right?
You know, or maybe you'll spend time with your family and the food trucks there. And so these community hubs, these share mobility hubs, both become a mobility hub, a community hub, but also energy hubs. So like, for example, folks that want to charge their electric vehicle, there'll be electric vehicle charging there as well. And it also becomes a data hub. So you get lots of information and be able to see and see what's happening in the system. And a real big focus of share mobility hubs and a lot of the projects that we've been really talking about is, again, focusing on this like safety, you know, and focusing on Vision Zero. I mean, we haven't identified a high-risk injury network, you know, in Contra Costa County. And so making sure we're focusing investment, you know, make walking and biking safer. And then we're talking about connectivity. We've talked a lot about TSP. We've talked a lot about express lanes. We've talked a lot about on-demand. We've talked a lot about share mobility hubs, and then accessibility. Knowing that it's also access and first and last mile, but it's also making sure we're addressing all the needs in terms of seniors and all the disabled folks in Contra Costa County, as we have that growing aging population in Contra Costa County.
It's trying to meet people's needs now, but it's also thinking about the future. And I think with kids, seeing us model and give those opportunities, we could have a real influence on how people look at transportation in the future.
And that's an excellent point. I think a real key part of this is getting students and getting youth into transit.
Right.
Getting them into transit and getting them to school other than the traditional pickup and drop off. Right. Because I know one of the most stressful times during the day for folks getting around is school traffic.
Absolutely.
So you're parked in these lines of cars, and you're
Yes.
like, oh my God, this is like, we all know which streets to avoid at like 7:45 in the morning, because we want to sit in school traffic. And so being able to figure out ways to get, through Safe Route to School programs and, other types of programs, like we have a walk and roll program at CCTA where we encourage people to walk and bike to school. And so all of this is really focused on, that safety, connectivity, and accessibility. So with that being said, I think it's really time to kind of take your questions and start the Q&A part of the program. And we look forward to your questions. And what's the first question? Oh, so the first question is actually for Ken. So Eastern Contra Costa County through Tri-Delta Transit has a really, really successful program called Try My Ride. It's a popular on-demand transit service. People use it to get to and from the BART, again, addressing that first and last mile. Is that something that we can explore with County Connection or in other parts of the county?
Absolutely. I mean, we always are talking about accessibility, whether that's for our seniors or disabled population, but across the county, getting people into transit. And this would just be another driver. It's been proven successful already with our Tri-Delta Transit friends. So absolutely, it's anything we can do to drive people on. So we're always engaging and partnering with our operators.
Yeah. So the next question is actually for Diane.
Okay.
And so the next question is about Byron Airport. And you mentioned a little bit about this.
Yeah.
We didn't really get into too much detail,
Right.
so this is our opportunity. But I live near Byron Airport, and I've heard about some new kind of personal aircraft vehicles. Is this a real solution, or is it science fiction?
I don't think it's science fiction. We have, like I said, I was very inspired by the work that CCTA has done related to autonomous vehicle testing. And so over the last several years, we've worked with our airports to attract these innovations in aviation. And that's not only drone delivery and services that go with that, but it's also experimental type of air equipment that can do autonomous flights, and there's the personal vehicles that are being tested as well. It is very possible that in our lifetime, people will be accessing the air, and it's fascinating to see all the different innovations that are happening. And like I said, we're in the middle of the mega region of Northern California, a state known for innovation and technology, and so it'll probably happen here first.
Yeah.
Technology happens so much faster now.
Right.
I mean, you think back to cell phones in the 80s, and
Right.
what the cost is. But again, every day we turn around and there's some new application of technology within the transportation realm, let alone our lives.
And the cool thing is that, like with the autonomous vehicles, but also with this new technology, we also get to influence how it happens. We get to think about how we want it to be operated in our communities. And that's a really exciting thing.
Yeah, and I mentioned it. I mean, that's the key part of the countywide transportation plan is really thinking about how we're planning for that future as we think about the airspace.
Managing it, yeah.
We think about water, we think about air, we think about land, transit, all these things. Like these are all, was it cars, planes, automobiles, or whatever it is? So, but like trains, planes, automobiles?
Yep.
Yeah.
So, but as we think about that, I think this is a good reminder actually, because you have an airport in your district, you have an airport in your district, and those airports are really key, in Contra Costa County, particularly for transportation and mobility, and and really building off what you just said, is, really taking these airports and turning them into these like shared mobility hubs.
Yeah, and not to be selfish, but we both sit on the airport committee for the Board of Supervisors. It's also a county economic driver.
Correct.
So having them be shared mobility hubs, testing centers, actual transportation hubs is really a great thing for Contra Costa
It's
County.
been really exciting to work on it for the last 9 years, is to attract these new businesses to our airports. They're bringing jobs, they're bringing economic investment, and there's going to be the early opportunities for us to benefit from it.
Yeah, and air mobility is right around the corner.
Yeah.
I mean, companies like Joby, Whisk, Archer, I mean, these are companies that are going to be, they're piloted aircraft, not autonomous, but they're piloted aircraft. But this is aircraft that you'll be able to take all the way to SFO from Buchanan Airport or from Byron Airport, you know, all the way to Oakland Airport or SFO, rather than taking an Uber or Lyft or driving and dealing with the congestion and traffic. So it adds a whole nother like third dimension, you know, to transportation.
Yeah.
And it's really exciting.
Yeah.
So next question is actually for me.
It's for Tim.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm excited about using technology to improve our commutes. But can technology really help us more than adding a new lane or bus service? I mean, we've been talking a lot about that. I mean, there's a lot that I think is exciting about technology, but I think what happens with technology is we like I think you said it earlier, we can't forget about really the goal of really solving congestion and thinking about everyone, you know, making sure that we're not just looking to the next best thing or looking for that shiny object. You know, it's like we got to really think about, and I think we're really good about this, is like making sure that we're looking and testing technology with a goal, right? And with a use case, you know, and I think because it's really easy to be like, oh, look at that, that's really cool, we should figure out a way to use that. And I think one of the things that I think we do really good job of at CCTA and in the county is really thinking about what are the best use cases, you know, for this technology and thinking about how to really leverage it. And so, because transit is very important, you know, cars and driving are very important. All of these things are really important. And I think sometimes we tend to so focus on the technology that we tend to we don't want to forget about all the other important elements or important elements.
Really important
of the
in my
network.
neck of the woods to make sure we are doing that, but we can do this and that, and in certain areas, it's going to be more in the technology part of it.
Yeah, go ahead.
One of the important things, at least in my mind, was when you joined CCTA 5 years ago, you brought that autonomous vehicle vision or technology and innovation, but you're also traveling the country, traveling the world, looking at what other people are doing, whether that's in Europe or Asia or right here in the United States, as to, how can we deliver bus service more efficiently, more consumer friendly, those types of things, as well as. So it's not A or B, black and white. It is really a conjoining of all of these different ideas and technologies to make transportation more efficient, more safe, more convenient, more accessible, more.
Yeah. Safer, connected, accessible. Those are the three things we're going to take
And
away
we're
today.
a really good laboratory for all of these things, because some communities are so rural that there's only that opportunity. Some are so developed that they're not. We have a combination of all those things. So not only do we have those pockets where we can do that stuff, but we also have that interconnection of, making it all work together.
Yeah, and I think that's the key to technology. The key to technology is really the connected and making it all work together. And as you think about technology and leveraging like smart signals, we talked a little bit about it, but making sure we can use these types of use cases, for like emergency evacuation, and use cases to prioritize emergency services. So. Let's go back to the questions.
You just started.
For the group. So this is for everyone.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm worried about emergencies, earthquakes, fires, etc. If our roads are already congested what does that mean if there's an wow. We started talking about it. So
to start.
Yeah, so to start, so
we had this at the board last night.
So CCTA was actually awarded a grant by the state of California. It's a very large grant, about $1.3 million. To really look at a countywide evacuation study, and that study will be basically around a framework around how to be able to address emergencies like fire evacuations and how to leverage the infrastructure and the technology to be able to do that. And I think that's where smart signals comes into play. That's where prioritizing infrastructure, being able to coordinate with the transit operators to develop really connected transit service during those times. So it's going to be really key to be able to have this kind of fully connected system to be able to deal with this actual specific use case.
Yeah.
This might even play into one of the things I was really impressed with was a traffic operations center. When you think about in a crisis or a critical incident, having your smart signals helping the flow of traffic, whether that's emergency vehicles going in or evacuation going out, it's really critical that you have that smooth flow, that people don't get trapped where they don't want to be or shouldn't be.
Yeah, and even during events,
Yeah,
And so,
yes.
so I know we're getting close to time here, and really appreciate everyone's questions, and look forward to your continued engagement. And I think follow us at www.ccta.net. There's a lot of information about CCTA and how you can get involved. There's a community hub where you can sign up and be part of the conversation. And I would highly recommend all of you to stay connected relative to the countywide transportation plan. That's really going to be a key document for CCTA as we kind of look to the future, and really going to help prioritize investment of these transportation projects. As you can tell, there's a lot of needs, and in some cases there's not enough funding. And so we really need to learn from you in terms of what those priorities are and how we can better plan for the future. And through that CTP, as you mentioned, and you heard a lot today, it's all about safety, all about accessibility, all about connectivity. And we're really excited about the future. And I really want to thank Supervisor Burgis, Supervisor Carlson, also CCTA commissioners to join me on this webinar today, and really appreciate all of you to join this webinar. And hopefully you can tune in to another one of these soon.
Half a penny, that's all that you pay, to help our county move a better way. From the projects we built, to the dreams on the way. Roll on with Measure J. Yeah. We dug a new tunnel through the mountainside. The Contra Costa